This September, the EWG Scarlet Knights Alumni Association invites you to join us to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the founding of Exeter West Greenwich High School. In this video series, we'll chat with longtime faculty and staff to remember some stories you know, and maybe a few you haven't heard.
Well, I remember the teacher orientation in August, and they were issuing hard hats to us as we walked down the hallways because basically it wasn't done, you know. It really, remember, it wasn't done. Like, they were still painting, they were still putting things together. So, but it was really exciting because there was a whole bunch of new teachers. So, you know, when you get a new job in a school or any place of employment, you know, you're usually the only one that's new. But in this situation, there were, I think, 25 of us or something that were brand new. They were really dynamic people that I was working with. I mean, great. You know, great, the science department, I particularly remember that they were wonderful chefs. And I do remember feeling really privileged, you know, and really lucky to have gotten the job. That new paint smell kind of like permeated the halls for months, right, after we moved in. It was exciting for the kids too, because everything was new and they treated the place with some degree of respect, I think. I think in many ways it kind of brought out the best in the school, and it was such a unique experience, right, to start working at a brand new building. I mean, that, for a teacher, that's a once in a career thing. That doesn't really happen very often. So to be part of establishing routines and traditions and, you know, and be at the ground floor, that was really, really kind of exciting. When we started, I don't know the dollar amount. It seemed like a lot of money. I was like, oh, great. It was something like $50,000. I mean, there was nothing in here. I mean, there was nothing but chairs and maybe music stands, maybe chairs and music stands, but there were no instruments. So whatever the amount was, I had to outfit the entire music program, you know, including pianos and, you know, everything you need for an entire program. What turned out to be exciting at first was you soon realize that, boy, I'm going to run out of this money pretty quickly. But we were able to get like a lot of the essentials that we needed to get started. We didn't really have a ton of kids, so we didn't really need a ton of instruments. But there's certain things that you just have to own. You know, you got to own a set of timpani drums. You got to own a big concert bass drum. You got to have, you know, certain large saxophones, you know, tenors, baritone saxes. You got to get a couple of, you know, big low brass instruments. You know, school started and we're getting these big boxes and these big deliveries are coming in literally while, you know, because I think I started, I remember Mark Zunfrillo. Remember Mark? He played percussion. And I remember right off the bat, we didn't have everything we needed. And he, you know, he was back there doing anything I needed him to do. But, you know, we finally get the timpani. He's like, oh, great. Now we got timpani. Now we got a bass drum. Now we got stuff was kind of rolling in slowly. Actually, in a school setting, it's actually a lot of work to spend a lot of money because you got a lot of purchase orders to write up and you got to get quotes and you got to, you know, it's kind of a laborious process. But once you have all the stuff, it's nice to, you know, it's nice to have new stuff to work with. And I'm not sure I recognized the significance of it at the time because I was a relatively new teacher and I was so preoccupied with what I was doing in my own classroom. But the big picture was, hey, you know, we're really starting traditions here. I mean, the first time they did Midnight Madness, you know, I was part of that. Luke Clayman had a lot to do with, you know, sort of selecting and really thinking about the things that he wanted. Like that Midnight Madness thing, I think that was all him. Like I remember doing basketball pep band games and stuff in college, but I didn't have any pep band music, any short little things we could play. So I remember writing out a bunch of things that I just kind of made up and writing a bunch of short cheers and teaching them to the band. And then I remember getting the cheerleaders on board, and they set us up under the hoop. So we're like behind the backboard, and we played on the, as you walked into the gym, we were on the far left side, like bringing together people's ideas and saying, hey, what do we want to be? What do we want our mascot to be? That was like the other thing, you know? There was a very conscious effort to make the high school experience like as you know, I don't want to say typical, but we wanted kids to have traditional high school experience. You know, even though the building was new and the teams weren't really up and running and maybe the band wasn't what it was going to be later on, you know, we still wanted the experience to be as good an experience as you would have had if you went to NK or if you know, wherever you would have gone. And so, you know, we did have a lot of conversations about that. So I was in the Army Reserve actually. And 91 was like the fifth of my 6 years of commitment. And sure enough, we get called up. The Cold War ends, and the new role of the U.S. Military began. And so yeah, so I ended up getting called up. In January '91. Very long. I was gone. I was out of school for about 4 months. I came back at the end of April. So it was a very short deployment. It was a massive call up of like every reservist, every able-bodied reservist practically. It was 1 million troops were called up, and well, either called up or already in the active duty. Fortunately, while I was away, I got to correspond with my students, and I remember writing to the school. And I guess when I came home, they told me they used to read my letters over the PA that I wrote back to the kids. Yeah, so the students would write to me, and I'd write back. Got lots of letters and care packages from people, and it was before email, of course, and before cell phones. So I remember the mail that I received was wonderful, and yeah, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. That was the conflict. And like the timpani back there, those might be the ones I bought. Sean Pilati, remember him? And yeah, a lot of the names I'll never forget, because these are some of the kids I really got close with, very early on in my career. So you don't forget them. But Sean was a good trumpet player. That's why I remembered. I remember we went to a play too when I was here. I think we saw The Secret Garden. It was a wonderful show. It didn't last long on Broadway, but I thought it was great. I remember when people were starting to get whiteboards in the rooms, and he was like, "I don't like whiteboards." He goes, "I like the old school chalk. You got to get your hands dirty in math." He was also a chauffeur. He had a limo business on the side. I'm going, "Bob, that's a little weird. You're like chauffeuring high school kids for their proms, and you're their math teacher." He goes, "Well, I don't do it in my own school, but." It was always a battle. I remember the budget battles here were really rough. When I got here, some like the teachers who had been in Exeter and West Greenwich for years were, there was sort of like this educating the new people kind of thing. One of the conversations was, yeah, he says they built this school. It's like they built a Cadillac, but they forgot to include money for gas. And it was like at this beautiful brand new school, but there's no budget funds to run programs in it. But the new building was, was more passed by the, I don't know, I think somebody said at one time that the West Greenwich side was more in favor of it than the Exeter side or whatever. I don't know. And so there were some hard feelings in the town, like this big expensive school. But I mean, most folks eventually understood that the kids can't ship out to, North Kingstown and neighboring towns forever. But the Pops organization was great in that they were very, very supportive people, and it was nice because that was the first group of parents that I got to know, that I got to be friendly with. And as a new teacher in a district, that's important, because these are the folks that kind of help you understand the community, help you understand what's happened in the past and what things are going on, and what's important to the community, what's important to the kids. And I'm brand new to the school, and I'm hearing, "Matt Hedder, what the heck are you talking about?" And Joe Smith, who was a very unique person, one of the most artsy people I've ever known, and I would ask him about it. And I go, "Joe, what's this whole Mad Hatters thing?" And he goes, "Oh, it's like a little theater thing. We used to do it. You got to come." He couldn't even explain it. The anticipation and the curiosity is peaking at this point, right? So I finally got to it. I finally went to it. And it was like, I'm going down this trail, kids are jumping out at me and doing all these things. And it was like, it was serious. It was like that haunted trail, but it was like on steroids. It was like unbelievable. And I was really, really impressed, not only with that, but I learned to really appreciate Joe and his creativity with kids and the way kids rallied around the work that he did. And he was a really special, really unique talent to have in this community, and loved the kids, and the kids absolutely adored him. They absolutely adored him. And one thing a young teacher can learn from a veteran teacher like that is to be yourself. Be yourself and be true to what you love, and bring the kids into it. Bring the kids into the things you love, and they'll follow you. Yeah, my time was a little brief. I wasn't here long enough. But it's funny. I enjoyed being here, but I was young and I was impatient. I definitely missed the kids and the staff here, and the whole experience was, really was great. And I have very fond memories of that. I've been back to the school a few times over the years, And to me, it's always a new school, even though right now it's not new anymore, right? It doesn't surprise me that I heard so many good things about the school many years later. And it's still going strong, you know? Good school today, you know, really good school. Yeah. And you guys coming into that new school, I think it was sort of a bonding experience for all of you too, you know, because you were confronted with a lot of unique challenges and a lot of new things. And you know, I think the whole school kind of, you know, there was a sense of belonging here, a sense of, I don't know, it's hard to put into words, but generally speaking, you know, it was a great sense of community in this town, you know, in these two towns. And I know it's still there. Always been a great group of kids coming through this school, and I know I've visited, I've heard these kids play at festivals and stuff, and I know they've got a great music teacher here now, two great teachers, and so I know the tradition continues, you know. So.